back to another episode of Horror Galore, and we start off with Frankenweenie. Now, Frankenweenie is one of 3 movies that I own that are from Disney, and that this particular one is a children's movie, and it falls under children's horror. Now, I specifically like it, even though it's not horror. Well, it's horror genre, but it's not scary or anything because it's for children. But what I like about it is that they reference the Wolfman from Universal Studios. They reference Godzilla, the Mummy. You know, they make a lot of horror references that an adult would get. When as an adult, you're going, oh, they made a Godzilla reference, and the child is with you. Well, what's Godzilla? Bam! That's an introduction into the Godzilla franchise. They make a reference to, essentially, one of the creatures is a cat that winds up getting wings, and I think like the cat's tail winds up being like a snake or something. Like, it completely transforms. I'm thinking that's kind of a reference to Jeepers Creepers, which then you could show your child that when they get older. But you could use this as an introduction into horror into horror movies. But regardless, Frankenweenie is a good movie, and it turns out my niece said that this was her favorite movie. Now, on to a movie that's nobody's favorite, Flatliners, starring Ellen Page. This was a shit movie. That's how shitty it is. You have to roll the sleeve up a little higher. This is actually a remake. The original one starred Keith Sutherland. Keith Sutherland was in it. Kevin Bacon, Oliver Platt, Julia Roberts, and then there was somebody else. And then there's another person. And the premise is that they're all medical students, and that they start doing experiments on a inner body experience. Same premise here. The problem is that the original had a very good cast, very good storyline. This one, they also never ever explain how any of that makes sense. That Ellen Page's character has an inner outer body experience, and then when she comes back, suddenly she remembers things that her grandmother taught her when she was 6. That doesn't make any sense. And then the other people that have the same experience, they don't remember anything from when they were a child. Why was it only her? She just untapped another half of her brain that she wasn't using, or she remembered all these things that she forgot, but nobody else had that side effect. That's not explained, so the script was not very flushed through. Then, to make matters even worse, Keith Sutherland's in it, playing a doctor. He's playing the teacher. He's their instructor. And when you look into it, turns out this was supposed to be a sequel. And that Keith Sutherland was supposed to be back, and some of the other ones were supposed to be back. And then they all pulled out, but Sutherland stayed. And he was supposed to be the same character from the 90s version, and that this was going to be basically it would be the people that originally did it realize that a new group of people are doing it, and they're trying to put a stop to it, like, no, this is bad, because in that one you don't unlock forgetting memories. You bring back the past. When they bring it back, the child comes back with them, and that's the horror aspect, that they brought something back from their past that physically is coming after them. And this one is just, no, it made it look like everything was going to be great. They most likely took out all the references to the original one, and therefore you have nothing but script that doesn't connect to anything. It's more like someone took 57 different scripts, threw them into a blender, and pulled out pages, and that's the script. It's utter shit. But a movie that's not utter shit, this movie, Friday the 13th, the killer cut version. I've already talked about this when I was in the DVD section, and so I'm not going to talk about it again. If you want to hear what I have to say about that, you have to go back into the and go watch that episode if you haven't. So on to the next movie, From Hell. So the first thing is people are gonna go, From Hell, that's not a horror movie. No, it is. It's a slasher film. It's also a comic book movie because From Hell was apparently a comic book. Now, if you go onto Wikipedia and you read the Wikipedia article about this movie, it has a section about stuff that's not accurate at all. Apparently there's stuff that in the comic book they changed for this. But all in all, it's not a bad film. I never read the comic book, so I don't know if the comic book was better, or if this is better. Or actually, I don't even know if it was a comic book. It may have just been a graphic novel. I don't know how they came out with it, but this was pretty good. And actually, Johnny Depp doesn't play anyone too crazy in this one. This is like the most normal role he's ever done. And that Heather Graham is a whore in it. She's playing a hooker. I forget. I can't remember the name of the channel, but there's a YouTube channel where the guy looks at historical movies. And so he looks at a movie that's based on reality and then goes and compares the historical facts versus the movie. And I wish I could remember that channel so I could give them credit and put a link in the description, but I can't think of it. Hopefully if I do, it'll be there. But he describes in it that there's no way she would have been there. That she is too pretty to have been a prostitute. And as a side note, it takes place in Whitechapel. If you listen to death metal, there's a band called Whitechapel. That's where they get the name from, because that's where the Jack the Ripper murders took place, in Whitechapel, London, England. So enough history lessons. On to the next movie. And from Whitechapel, London, England to somewhere in Canada, the Gingersnaps. I say Canada because this is a Canadian horror movie. Now, the interesting thing about this, before I get into the movie, is that this chick right here is actually older than that chick. Why is that important? Because that's the younger sister in the movie. So it's weird. When they filmed it, the 18-year-old, they're both playing like 16 or 17-year-olds. So you have a girl that's 21 playing a 17-year-old, and an 18-year-old playing, or a 21 playing a 16-year-old, and an 18-year-old playing a 17-year-old. But anyway, it's about not vampires. It's not about vampires. It's about werewolves. And they actually call them werewolves. And that her name is Ginger. Hence, eventually in the movie she snaps. It goes from being, a kind of nice person, sort of nice and weird, to just vicious. So it's Ginger Snaps. It's actually a good name once you've actually watched it. It makes sense. So it's overall really good movie. There's another thing I want to point out with this particular box. As you can see this cover, it came with that as the cover. Now I know the US covers are always more violent looking than the Canadian versions. So here's US, all the red, and there's a dead wolf, there's all this like really horror themed stuff. The Canadian one looks more eerie and creepy. That's the side I prefer because it is a Canadian film. Let me just put this back. Nope, it's not correct. And it's DVD Blu-ray combo, which I like. There is a YouTuber named Blue Screen Jason who is from Canada, and from talking to him, he happened to mention that the packages that it could be a video game, it could be Kirby. In the Kirby US version, Kirby's got a fist out like this, and then in the Canadian version, Kirby's like this. No fist, arms go up, And it was little subtle differences like that he noticed that the American, for the US packages, they're always more in your face than the Canadian versions, which I was like, that's interesting. And then when I got this, oh, look at this. They packaged it for the U.S. market. No, give me the Canadian one. So that's why I just wanted to bring that up. And then this one, and you know what? I'm just gonna do the next one. There's nothing there because the next ones is kind of omnibus sort of thing. Halloween 1, already did a video on that. Halloween 2, same thing. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Halloween 6. So, I just wanted to throw those in because that would have wound up being the beginning of next episode. So that's the end of the video. If you liked it, click the like button. You want to follow me on Twitter, go for that. Instagram as well. And if you want to support the channel, please do so at Patreon. Links for those three are in the description below. And like I said, if I remember what that channel is where they look at the videos, the historical videos, it will be in the description as well. But that's it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.